Hello, you guys. This is Josh Vision, and I'm here to give you my Season 1, Episode 1 review of The Umbrella Academy. So basically, this episode starts off in the year October 1st, 1989, and we start off with one of the swimmer girls actually giving birth to a baby, literally, while trying to do some laps in the pool. So it turns out that baby actually turns out to be like number 1, I believe. And number 1 is Luther. And then you have 6 other babies who are born around this time, even though throughout the world there's 43 that are born around this time. But there's 7 that are specifically taken by this billionaire named, I believe, Reginald Hargreaves. And he basically raises these kids as superheroes. For instance, early in the episode, we had like 6 of these 7 kids actually stop a bank robbery, while the other one, who's known as number 7, she just basically is with their father, Reginald Hargreaves, essentially, and she wanted to help her siblings, but he's like, listen, there's nothing special about you, you're just ordinary. And I'm like, wow, already establishing in this series how much of an a-hole and an arrogant prick that dude is, but whatever. So essentially, the main timeline takes place 30 years after the children's birth, and there's lots of flippy flop essentially when it comes to timeline. We constantly go back from we constantly go from the past, present, so on and so forth. So all the kids are basically named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 6 of the kids are actually alive. Number 6 died, but he's able to communicate from the grave. Number 4 is Klaus. Klaus is basically a drug addict, an alcoholic, constantly going from rehabilitation programs back and forth, essentially. And he never seems to learn his lesson at all. Number 3 is Allison. She's a celebrity, but she can convince people to do what she wishes. Number 2, Diego, who's basically like Batman, a vigilante. He even has a mask for the most part, and he's a specialist when it comes to knives. Number 1, who's basically the first birth of this series, I believe, is Luther, who's basically an astronaut with superhuman strength. Number 7, as I mentioned, is Vanya, who basically doesn't have any superhero abilities, but she's a very good violinist. And like I mentioned before, number 6 is dead. And number 5 is like a time traveler who's been gone for 17 years and finally appears near the end of this episode. So what brings all these siblings back together is the fact that their father died, and the majority of the siblings believes that their father just died of natural causes because he was old, due to heart failure. But the eldest one, Luther, mentioned that he doesn't think that their father would die like that suddenly, and also the fact that weeks before his father's death, his father told Luther essentially to watch yourself. So he thinks his father was probably kidnapped or taken or something, or knew something very important. Diego doesn't care. It's clear that Diego and Luther, 2 of the elder siblings, they have tension with each other, basically trying to figure out who's alpha, essentially. The siblings have a touch relationship with Vanya, the youngest, because she wrote a tell-all book about their experiences as, superheroes, essentially. Well, number 4 and 5 don't care, because 4 is all about getting his high, and number 5 just came back from 17 years in the future time traveling. So he's like a 13-year-old boy physically still, so he doesn't really care either. And number 6 is dead. So in regards to number 5, he basically comes back from his time traveling, and he tells Vanya essentially that that in the future everything's destroyed. It's like an apocalypse, essentially. That the only one that survived was him, and the only reason why he's telling this to Vanya because she's regular, unlike the other siblings. And since that's the case, she's gonna be more clear-headed about it, and we'll probably figure out ways on how to prevent this from happening. So, besides that, in this episode, like, really nothing much really happened this episode besides the kids stopping the bank robbers and Klaus communicating with his dead sibling. Another thing which I found very interesting is the fact that despite Klaus having the ability, aka number 4, having the ability to speak to the dead, he wasn't able to contact his father, their father. So that leads me to believe that Luther is right, that, yeah, that dude is definitely alive. And I'm interested to see what the freak actually happened to him. So I believe that's all that really happened. Like, there's 7 kids, essentially. Well, 6 of them are alive, with number 6 being dead. but there's 37 other immaculate births, essentially 37 other like superpowered or special children. So I'm wondering what role they're gonna play, as the season progresses. But yeah, I'll give this episode basically like an 8 out of 10. I'm really feeling it. If I miss anything, please write some comments down below. A lot of crap happened, in this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and adios.